ideas. They can still decide whether they want to support the ideas or develop new ones or so on and so on. Ideas, they can still decide whether they want to support the ideas or develop. Okay. Looks like the live stream is working. So just a moment longer. Just getting set up here. And we still got people arriving, so. Oh, we got people in the waiting room. Okay, fantastic. Lois, are we ready? Everything on your end? Good. So Lois is helping to co-host this event, so thank you very much in advance already. Now, we start the meeting with the reading of the opening notes, and these are important because this really sets the stage, lets people know what to expect, kind of lays out kind of the rules that we use, lets you know what the possibilities are. And the possibilities are truly endless here. But it is really up to you to, help us build this whole new, better world together, right? So I am going to share in the chat the link to the opening notes. And unless we have a volunteer from someone else here who would like to, where's the chat? I can't find it. Okay, there it is. Unless we have any other volunteers for reading the opening notes, I would ask Lois to please assist me. I'm going to share my screen for that too. Okay, everyone should be able to see my screen. These are the opening notes. Do we have any volunteers or someone who would like to read these for us? Don't rush all at once. Okay, Lois, would you please take it away?
Okay, so our opening notes. Number 1, we maintain the right to freedom of speech. This does not include threats or harassments of other participants. 2, as individuals, we are partial. As a group, we are impartial. We are here to develop our own philosophies and to assist one another in doing so. 3, be mindful of everyone's time. You will have more than one chance to speak. Time limits may be imposed. 4, this community is what you make it. Criticism is cheap. What we want is better ideas. Speak up. 5, focus on advancing your best ideas, not on winning every argument. Be strategic. 6, we are here to do politics, not to comment on politicians doing politics. Take a stand for ideas, not faces. 7, to be presentable at Citizen Assembly, an idea must be written as a plain text document, published for others to see, and copy left for others to use. We use agora-ilp.org to conveniently and efficiently share our ideas. 8, we follow a specific format. The presenter presents an idea, 11 minutes max. We measure the support in Agora for that idea. Quick show of hands. We deliberate in strict order of claimed turns, raised hands. We conclude with uninterrupted closing remarks by each participant. Number 9, respect your host. The Citizen Assembly Network is inclusive of everyone, but the host of any particular meeting has the right to dismiss any participant whom they are unable to handle. 10, to help maintain respectful attitudes and a dignified atmosphere, proper way to address other participants is citizen followed by the name. 11, help us help you. Use the chat to share any information and resources that you think are important. 12, This meeting is part of a larger process. We encourage you to present one of your ideas at an upcoming citizen assembly. Organize your own citizen assembly meetings about topics important to you. Host your own citizen office hours to discuss ideas one-on-one in greater depth. And make connections with other participants to network and socialize.
That is fantastic. Thank you very much, Citizen Lois. The next portion of the meeting is we're going to do a quick round of introductions. This is only intended to be, you could call this like an elevator's pitch. So we're going to be using this format, your name, your nation, your main interest as a thinker. If you want to throw in something else or you don't feel comfortable disclosing some of these things, that's fine. You can deviate from that format, but this is there as, as like a baseline for you to use. I'm going to put that for reference in the chat. And we normally like to do everything by leading by example here. I'll go ahead and I'll introduce myself. My name is Cezary Jurewicz, from the nation of United States of America. My main interest as a thinker, that's ethics and economics. My main concern as an activist, that's animal liberation and social and economic justice. Now, if Citizen Lois, would you mind leading us in the rest of the introductions, please?
Very well. I'll go next then, and then I will call on other people. So, my name is Lois Diggs Jurewicz. I live in the state of Illinois, united to 49 other states of America. One of my main interests as a thinker is the concept of restoration of state sovereignty in the USA and possibly secession. And as for activism, I'm not really an activist right now because I prefer to think a lot more about things before I act. Okay, so next, how about Jean Tolles, a citizen Jean Tolles. If I mispronounce your name, please correct it for everyone, but you're welcome to go next. Your microphone right now is muted.
How about now?
Oh, wait a second. It was unmuted and then muted, muted, and then unmuted again. So if you hit the button just one more time, you should be good. Yes, no. If you're having trouble with your microphone, you can use the chat instead.
No, I was able to hear her.
All right, but the microphone is muted right now, so we can't hear her until, and it looks like maybe there's some trouble with the button or something. So that's why I suggested the chat.
Your microphone does say it's muted right now. I do see it like flash off and then flash right back on, or I mean, flash on and then flash off.
How's that?
That's good. Just keep it like that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My name is Jean Tolles, and thank you for pronouncing my name right. I've just been thinking a lot. I saw this website, and I'm thinking about things like the fact that we seem to be in a state of extreme inequality, maybe going back to the Gilded Age or something in America, and how we can maybe at least try to follow more of the precepts of the country was supposed to be like, so that there's more for more, things like that. I've been interested in that, things like that for a long time. And I saw that you were going to talk about, maybe I'm wrong, injustice in our system, of our prison system. Maybe I'm not. accurate about that. But I'm more interested in, I think I even wrote that I think we're closer to becoming a dictator.
Excuse me, Citizen Jean Tolles, I'm sorry to interrupt. We would love to hear more about your perspective and what you value.
But on what?
But these are just 30-second introductions. So we want.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Sure, it's okay. But like I will definitely have a time later for you to say whatever you want. But
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
I'm from Oregon, and Portland, Oregon.
All right, nice, cool. All right, so Citizen Andy, you'll go next. Just around the 30-second introduction, please.
Hi, thank you. So you can call me Andy, nation, United States. Main interest as a thinker, philosophy, and religion. Activist. So main concern is that I'm not an activist.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Citizen Andy. Citizen Tom, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Tom, U.S. Issues of justice. I'm really not an activist. Yeah, just wish I had some means to be able to do things, but I don't.
All right, thank you, Citizen Tom. All right, next is Citizen Sahad Sadek. Please go ahead.
It's Shahad. So I'm talking from America. And I'm just gonna look real quick. Sorry, I missed the chat. My name is Shahad, talking from the US. I'm interested in meaning and purpose. And I am not an activist, but I am always concerned with the truth. So I would imagine that I am an activist when someone's lying. So that's it for me.
All right, thank you very much, Citizen Shahad, and thank you for the correction as well. All right, Citizen Cody, your turn. Please introduce yourself in about 30 seconds.
Cody, London, England, Great Britain, United Kingdom. I guess interest as a thinker is personal gain. I believe information is power, so I want all the power. I want to know everything. And activism, I guess, the removal of all religion throughout the planet, which is what I consider to be the virus of our society.
Thank you very much, Citizen Cody. I'm just laughing because my husband Cesar uses the exact same language as you, so you know there could be a great opportunity for you guys to connect if you haven't already. Okay, so we have also been joined by iPhone 43. I'm not really sure who that is, but if you can hear us and if you'd like to introduce yourself, we invite you to contribute your name, your nation, interests, or any activist activities. So go ahead if you wish.
Sorry, I'm late. I'm actually working today. I still want to join you guys. So my name is Etta, E-T-A. I like outdoor activities, just try new things, adventures. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Citizen Etta. We will, I think that now Citizen Denny, you can introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Mladen Pavlov, but I go by Danny. Nation USA. Main interest as a thinker. I'm interested in a lot of things. Try to be interested in as many things as possible that are important and, you know, affect negatively people. Main concern as an activist, I also don't think myself as an activist, but in a way we're all activists in some capacity by being here, you know, and getting involved and, you know, discussing these important topics. One thing that bothers me recently is, sorry to mention politicians, but Donald Trump got people killed and people still want to make him president. It's very concerning for me. People that doesn't register to people how dangerous that is. That we have people in politics that are not moral people, you know. So that's it. Thank
That's
you.
an understatement.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Citizen Denny. Back to you, Citizen Cesare.
Thank you very much. Real quick, I just want to mention I didn't quite get the name right. Is it Ada or iPhone 43? Your audio to me was very staticky. It actually cut out a lot, so I hope you can fix that as you're making further comments. And actually, if you could please put your name in the chat, we can change your name so that, you know, but if you would put in the chat, if it's possible. Kind of sounds like you're driving. I hope you're not. But so it's easier for people to refer to you if they.
I was hearing her okay, by the way.
Oh, you were? Okay, maybe it was on mine. All right, before we get going to, I just want to say real quick, now that we've had the introductions, we do have plenty of these beautiful Control Your Government t-shirts. So to whoever has the most insightful contribution in today's session, we're going to be taking a vote. We're going to be using the approval voting method, by the way. That always gets discussed a lot. Ultimately, we do organize as the International Logic Party, a party that's not ideological but logical, a party that's actually about rationality and a really efficient and democratic process. So that's what's on the back. But this is our slogan, because that's what we want people to do, is to control their government. The logo, and of course there is the visual representation of the Agora platform. So actually, I want to take just a few minutes just to show you all the technology that we use for this for organizing all of this information, because the idea that's going to be presented today, it is one of the many competing ideas in Agora. There are other ideas similar to it that are also competing about criminal justice system reform. And it's up to you to decide which of these ideas are the best by adding those ideas to your philosophy, or introducing new ideas, and hopefully one day we will have you present your ideas to us, you know, if you think you have a better idea. But I just want to take a moment here, share my screen, and I'm going to show you quickly what Agora is capable of doing and just how it looks, how it operates. So I'm already logged in. I'm on the home screen right now. This is my ideological profile. It is what it sounds like. These are my ideas. This is a profile of all the different ideas that I support. The reason I support them is because I think they're good, really important ideas. And by supporting these ideas, I'm giving them support on the idea dominance index, but I'll move on to that in just a moment. I just want to show you the structure of this. There is a structure, so it's point weighted. So like this idea here, nature of reality, human capacity for understanding reality, mechanics of reality, ethics, rights, trust in politics. This is my fundamental philosophy. It's really at the top of my profile, because and especially for today's idea that I will be presenting, I think it's really important that today's idea, the topic of today's discussion, I think is actually very firmly rooted in my fundamental philosophy. So I'll probably be referencing this idea as well during the course of the discussion, which is why it's so helpful for all of us to externalize our ideas. So if people want to understand better what we're actually saying, what we're actually advocating, they can turn to your book, your wisdom, your collection of your thoughts that you have externalized, made available for other people to investigate, to improve upon, and so on. But anyways, so there is a structure. This is the 22-point idea, 21-point idea. For example, today's idea that I will be presenting, it's actually in my 16-point position. So I give this idea 16 points, but I'm not the only person who supports this idea. This idea has 3 other supporters, and together, the 4 of us, we give this idea 75 points. So, and you can see, like, for example, this next idea has 15 supporters with 254 points. This idea, actually, we're going to see these ideas here in a moment. When you go to the ideas screen, you can see all the different ideas in the system, and I'm going to click on the idea dominance index because otherwise we're looking at just what the newest ideas are. And the idea dominance index is a listing of all the ideas within the platform according to how strongly they are supported by the people. So this is the #1 idea in the world within the system. It's for the universal basic income. It has 254 points from 15 supporters. The #2 idea is about personal liberty, romantic liberty, philosophical and religious liberty. It has 9 supporters. Oh, excuse me, 9 supporters with 112 points. I want to see real quick, where's today's idea? Today, the idea I will be presenting today, I just want to find it for reference because we're going to try, during the course of this discussion, we're going to try to move this idea. I'm going to try to get supporters for this idea. I think it's a good idea. I think more people should support it. So it's in 9th place. So hopefully we either make this idea move up or we're able to improve this idea, make it something better, something more people are willing to support. So that's today's idea. And so we have a listing of all these ideas. There are some brilliant ideas here. There are some absolutely idiotic ideas here. But the point is that the people decide which ideas rise to the top as we inform one another, as we educate one another through our discussions, the citizen assembly discussions. And these events are posted here in the meeting screen. So if you want to organize a meeting, you can post that. For example, this is today's citizen assembly. And yeah, so yeah, that's today's posting. The next month, within next week, I'll be posting next month's citizen assembly and so on. But ultimately, we are organizing as the International Logic Party, and we need political candidates who are actually going to represent these ideas in government. So if you think you're willing and able to do that, we need somebody to champion the will of the people. And so in the campaign screen, you can announce yourself as a candidate. I'm actually not really a candidate for President of the United States, but just as, for example, I'm here, and so over here you can display the list of candidates for the head of state of the United States. And I'm in first place because there's no one else running against me. But I have this is my score, and this score is based on which ideas I support, how strongly these ideas are supported by the people. There's a very simple algorithm, and this is my approval rating. So I guess I'm okay, at least for now, right? But yeah, seriously, we need people who are going to champion these ideas in government. So we need other leaders. So I hope you rise to the occasion. Real quick though, I just want to also show you, this is everything you just saw is the main Agora. We also have a municipal Agora for organizing ideas for local governance. So for example, for Chicago, Illinois, ideas, and there is also a community Agora with all kinds of different communities. This is actually a lot of fun. Some of these, I love. Well, we don't need politicians for these ideas. Let's just say these are ideas that we can implement, at a grassroots level in our daily lives. I just want to show you as an example some of the communities that are here. We got a community for ideas about how to improve this website, this platform, Agora. The Agora development community, truths we all should know, stories we all should hear, world's biggest challenges. Some of my favorites are shaping culture, media we can trust. Actually, another one of my favorites is my personal values. I love organizing a list of my own values and prioritizing them, so I understand myself better, and so other people understand me better if they're going to have a discussion with me about some of the other ideas. Anyways, a lot to explore here, but I want to stop here with the presentation of the platform. You'll just have to explore that on your own if you haven't already. Okay, it's getting dark over here. I think I'm going to need a little bit more light. It's time to move on to the actual presentation of today's idea. And I think we're actually doing really well on time. Normally this would be like the 40-minute mark, but we're only at the 27-minute mark. Give me just one moment here. I need to turn on the light. in the room here? Thank you for your patience. Thank you very much for your patience. All right. This is a new time for Citizen Assembly. We used to meet on Sunday mornings, Chicago time. Now we're meeting in the evening, so the lighting is different. I'm not quite used to it. All right, I'm gonna set 11 minutes for myself on the timer here. I don't think I'm really gonna take that long. I don't have that much to say as far as a presentation. I think just more interesting things will come out in the deliberation. But I'm gonna share this idea. First of all, I'm gonna share the link to this idea. Give me a second. And as you saw, this idea is in the 16-point position in my ideological profile. That's another way you can find it, but I'm gonna share the link in the chat so that you can always refer to it at your convenience. All right, and I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna read it for you because again, my goal is to get you to support this idea, either support this idea or improve this idea. So I think it's important that you know what the actual text of the idea is. So I'll read it. Definition of, and okay, so there are two sections, and in the title here, these are the two different sections. This is referencing the sections. The first section, this is very short, as you can see. It's a definition of justice. Okay, I'm going to talk about it more after I read it. But section 2 is about criminal justice system reform. So, definition of justice and criminal justice system reform. Section 1, justice is the friendship of strangers. Section 2, the focus of the criminal justice system shall be on rehabilitation, especially through education, life coaching, and job training, rather than on punishment. Those who cannot be reformed sufficiently for eventual return to society shall be given a choice between continued institutionalization or release into a well-guarded natural location. Okay, so to elaborate on this, and you know, justice is, there are books that are written on this topic. What is justice, right? There are all kinds of different models for justice, all kinds of different theories that people have developed and shared. But the idea here is, justice is tricky. It's so big, and yet it feels like so simple. Like, you know when something just doesn't feel just. So, and I think this really brief statement encapsulates that, because basically, for people to act justly is for them to act the way that friends would towards one another. Like, that's the reason why they're able to have a good, mutually nurturing, helpful relationship. They're just looking out for each other's best interest. And obviously, our society is too big. You're never going to be friends with anybody. But if you can interact with people with that same spirit, treat them like they are your friends, or maybe one day they will be your friends. Well, for some reason they used to be your friends and they're not anymore. That can be kind of tricky. Obviously, you know, it's a difficult subject. So sometimes your friends mistreat you, and that's why they stop being your friends. But as long as they act justly, or as long as they act the way good friends should, you know, then you can maintain that relationship. So yeah, it's a big topic, and basically here we're just trying to express a very simple spirit of, you know, just like be like a good friend, and then that's essentially what justice is. Try to imagine what the other person needs to succeed, to thrive, to improve themselves, so they can then, you know, be good to you in return. And there you got justice. And you know, if it's mutual, then you can actually have a friendship, a good relationship, and so on. Anyways, that's all I got to say about that section 1. But I want to address section 2. I'm going to bring this back up on screen here real quick. I always hate how Zoom does this. The focus of the criminal justice system shall be on rehabilitation, especially through education, life coaching, and job training, rather than on punishment. So I mean, I hope you can see the spirit of, you know, section 1 right in that. You know, friends don't try to screw each other over. That's, friends are trying to help each other out. If somebody did something that, that is harmful to you, you would address that. You would say, hey, this is how you have injured me. This is the problem that you've caused me. And then the other person, once they're aware of that, then they're like, oh wow, I'm sorry. Let me do everything I can to make you whole, to bring us back to that position that we were in. And that's what the criminal justice system should do, or else it's not really justice. But through I will comment that in one of the previous, this is actually many years ago, the insistence was that to not take out punishment completely, sometimes maybe punishment can play a role. I think it's kind of an ugly role. I think the idea is rehabilitation. Maybe that includes, I prefer the word penalty personally, um, because punishment tends to have this moralistic moralistic attitude, whereas a penalty, it's really just kind of like you're playing a game. Sometimes you win points, sometimes you gain points, and you want more points, so you're trying to avoid the penalties, right? But so yeah, but I'm still a supporter of this idea, despite this language. It's not, maybe my favorite language, but I'm like, hey, you know what, this is good enough. So we reached this position through some compromise. So um, I hope that's not too objectionable to to any other potential supporters, or we can talk about it. I just want to address this section here. Those who cannot be reformed sufficiently for eventual return to society shall be given a choice between continued institutionalization or release into a well-guarded natural location. So to be clear, we are talking about banishment. And I know we do have some people from the UK here, so we're not talking about, giving these criminals a whole colony, like Australia. This it would not, basically keeping these criminals in the Stone Age, essentially. But on a whole continent, you can build a whole other society and basically lose the you can lose the natural territory. It stops being natural. So I think it has to be better considered than just sending people to Australia, sending your criminals to Australia. But yeah, so those who cannot, but the important thing is to recognize that some people cannot be reformed. I think the criminal justice system should be there to reform people, because and doing anything else is dumb. I mean, it's just a waste of resources. Here you have this person, and if you can re-educate them, if you can train them, if you can coach them to be a contributed member of society, well, then not doing that is kind of just dumb. It's a waste of resources. It's inefficient. But some people really cannot do that, and so but they can. But that doesn't mean that they can't still be contributing members if we have good institutions where these people can still function, maybe isolated from society, but still live at a certain level of comfort. They might choose to continue being institutionalized as opposed to being banished and living in an island uh, where they might just have to hunt and kill each other to eat each other. So it might be preferable to be in an institution rather than in the wild. But I guess the other alternative is to kill criminals. But I think that's a very dangerous proposition. I don't think we should be in the business of killing criminals because, well, sometimes you're wrong and sometimes you kill the wrong people. So I think you got to give people a chance to, who knows, maybe there will be some evidence that shows that they weren't really guilty, or maybe they become, anyways, so that possible. So point is, I'm against killing criminals. I think we can banish them to an island where they can kill each other if there's nothing else we can do with them, and if that's what they want. But I don't think as a society we should be killing criminals. It's dangerous territory. I think that's really all I have to say about this idea. So the one thing that we want to do before we move on to the deliberation and we open up the floor. Actually, I think we're right on time, now that I remember how the timing goes. So, but the one thing we want to do, as you saw, this idea is in 9th place on the Idea Dominance Index. 4 supporters, 75 points. What we want to see is how people feel in the room about this idea, whether you are a supporter of this idea or you intend to become a supporter of this idea as soon as you log into Agora and and are able to update your ideological profile with it. So we want to see a show of hands for people who are supporters or who will become supporters. If you are not a supporter and if you disagree with this idea, well, this is where the discussion comes in, and you will have an opportunity to say what you think is a better idea, why you don't support this idea, and why you think you have a better idea. So please don't just criticize, but actually, offer better solutions. Because criticism is cheap, as we like to say. Give us better ideas. So real quick, who is a supporter? Quick show of hands, please. Who is a supporter or who is going to be a supporter of this idea? And I'm seeing, could you hold your hands up, please? Because I just wanted to get a count. So we have Jean, so we have, I think Shahad was raising, no? Okay, so it looks like we only have 2 supporters of this idea. So I hope we're going to have some great perspective from the non-supporters. I think that's it. And I think we're ready to move on to the, actually, my timer's about to go off, so we're going to move on to the deliberation. And if you would please raise your hand for those who want to speak. We do use the Zoom features, the Zoom hand up function, to keep track. And one last thing I do want to say, we do speak in the order that people raise their hands, and it is incredibly valuable because you might have something to say that you might not have a chance to say it. We don't really interrupt each other, unless it's for like 1 second. You have something just to really quickly to throw in there. But please use this phenomenal technology of pen and paper, or pencil and paper, or crayon and paper, whatever. Whatever is convenient to you, but take notes so that, when it's your turn to speak, you're actually not forgetting any of the important points you wanted to make. And okay, we're going to open up the floor to the first participant. Citizen Shahad, you have the floor.
Hey, yeah. So how much time do we have to speak? I don't want to over.
We do not have a specific time limit, but some people, sometimes we do have crazy people who don't know when to stop. They cannot manage. No, seriously, we do have people who cannot manage themselves. And so we will say that, okay, please wrap up. You have like a minute to wrap up. Hopefully we don't run into that, but just make your point.
Okay. It's not that I don't support your statement, so I just want to elaborate. I just have a bunch of questions that I need it to be more specific. One is, you said that justice is friendship with strangers. My only issue is, yes, you can sort of have the intentions, but what about the other party that does not agree to your terms of play? And the terms of play is that I'll treat you as a friend if you treat me as a friend, and they're like, you're not my friend. So what justice for them looks different because they have a different philosophical perspective. So what does justice then mean if they don't treat you as a friend? So how do I know? So that's 1. 2, how do I know my idea of justice is the correct idea of justice? Like, what is it based on? What is the basis? So I would say that if we're going to talk about justice, we need to establish a moral common ground where we all agree is the ultimate justice or not. If that doesn't exist, then justice runs amok because everyone has a different definition of justice based on their background, their trauma, their whatever. So if we don't have a moral high ground, a moral standard that we adhere to, then justice is just a word. There's no really basis for you to call something justice or not. And then thirdly, and I understand what you're saying, is that put them in the wild and they kill each other. But if we are claiming that killing somebody is immoral, yet we release them into the wild, and we know that they're incapable of handling their own psychoticness, then by letting them kill each other, we de facto allow that to happen. So aren't we also implicated with that murder? So these are some of the questions I basically was having. It's not saying that your idea isn't or not your idea, but the platform is not
does it, it's too, yeah, someone who said it's too general. It's true, but I just want more specific answers to that.
Thank you. Citizen Tom, you have the floor next.
I think that more the like first of all, the laws need to be clarified. There's like feedback. The laws would need to be clarified to ensure that they're kind of like. Is my voice weird?
I think you have
Really?
a frog mimicking your voice too.
Really?
You have a little pet frog talking.
Can you hear me? Is it weird now?
Yeah, we can hear you, but a frog, I think, is a pretty good descriptor of what we hear in the
I think
background.
now it's better. I think the last few words you said were fine.
Really?
Keep going, because
Yeah,
Is
keep
it
going.
good now? Or
Yeah.
can you hear me? Is it normal? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think that the laws, like, there's got to be some sort of reasonable guideline for those laws for like to be enacted, and then the punishment or justice that follows. I think that not everyone agrees to a lot of laws, right? So that's a big issue. And then the component of like justice, and I think that one way to look at it might be how much damage does that one person do to the victims of whatever crime they commit. So, for example, a pedophile, if they cause harm to a family, a child, how damaged is that? If they actually take the life of that child, then the effects on the family and the number and how that impacts them and their existence and for how long and all those things. I don't even think I would definitely think that taking their life away would be 100% necessary in my opinion. I think they lost their right to breathe after doing certain things like that. But outside of that, there should be a further punishment in a sense, not punishment, but balancing of the damage that's been caused in a sense, right? Like a checks and balance kind of way to gauge it. So just like you would do in a simple accounting thing, right? So that's on the individual citizen level. And putting people in jail and all that. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't think it necessarily is. It covers the cost and balance. Like there's your balance sheet's completely off. I think if you, in many cases, if you just put people in prison, there's a lot more things you could be doing to have them like balance out their whatever damage they've caused to people and the society, right? And I think that may also help possibly reduce crime. I don't know if that's true or not, but might. And so, but at the end of the day, it's the law. Initially, the laws, right? If we have a law that's like picking your nose is like criminal, because like whoever picked the law has a hiccup about nose pickers, because like when he was a child, people picked their nose and wiped it on them and it traumatized him, and then he got in power and he like makes that law. Like that law would be bullshit. It would need to be changed, right? No, I'm not trolling. There's a lot of bullshit laws out there. So there you go.
Okay. You're done, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Citizen Denny, you have the floor.
Okay, so I think that, happy people don't commit crime and happy people commit crime. So if we focus more on trying to make people happy, and hopefully I think it should be done not with material things, but in other ways, for example, finding and developing your talents, wherever they might be, or forming relationships with people, and creating a caring environment where people care about one another. Because if left to the impression that many Republicans, for example, they just want they to be okay, and since resources are limited, they think if somebody else has enough for them to have a happy life, they're going to be unhappier, and they're greedy, and no, they don't like that. They don't like really sharing the resources with other people. I think that's a big problem, that we live in a world where we, to a large extent, we have left people to think like this and act like that, and we tolerate them, and just this grows, and it's what justice are we talking about then? So that's concerning. What else? The role of would bring the question about. I'm also totally about prevention, and instead of punishment. If we have to punish people, we've already failed. We already missed the people. We have to raise them right. If you raise a person wrong, then we have all kinds of trouble with him. If you raise them right, there are no problems with them. You don't have to spend all kinds of money on prosecutors, police, judges. I mean, list goes on and on and on. There's so much money we're spending. Yeah, we don't see enough emphasis on that. That's why I had posted an idea about the government being more involved in how people raise their children, helping them raise their children. I'm not talking about control and forcing them to certain. In a way, maybe they have to force them, to if they're mistreating their children and raising them wrong. And for example, the other issue about how genetically, maybe it's the issue of whether a person becomes evil because of nature or nurture. As far as I remember from school, it's both of them form a person, whether they're going to become a moral person who's going to commit crime, or a moral person who's not going to commit crime. And we also have to address the issue of genetically, let's say if the father is criminal, genetically their children, you should have more control about the children of criminals and how they're raised, because the father is criminal, they're going to teach the children to be criminal also, not to mention that might be the only thing that they teach their child for some people on top of that. So yeah, there should be more control about that, about the family unit, how people raised in the family, and more control about, I don't know. Okay, let me see what else. Yeah, the problem, one of the problems with that material is related also to materialism, how that makes people, greedy and selfish, and not caring about other people, and they, yeah, and also motivates many people to commit crime, for financial reasons. Of course, that not all crimes are because of that. Other crimes are because of, like I said, nature and nurture. How it could damage a person. And even the example with Donald Trump, how, just to give an example, concrete example, how Mary Trump, his cousin, I think she was his cousin, and she's actually a psychiatrist, I think. And she was explaining how in his family, he was raised to not be compassionate, and when you connect it to January 6th, things kind of make sense. Before they dismissed her, it's the other thing annoying, how people dismiss somebody because she was disinherited, or she's just making stuff up and don't really think more carefully about what she's saying. You have to, regardless who the person is, you have to listen to the message, and if the message is right, it makes sense that you should think twice before electing such a person. Okay, moving on. I have here 7, but I'm gonna just go to 3 or 4, and hopefully you can get back to me later on. And in regards to justice, I think justice should be merciful, so also not too much in favor of too much stick and punishment. And it just makes people more angry, you know, and more likely to commit crime if they're punished. Then I don't think it's going to make things better. And I think justice should be more compassionate and merciful and not be cruel. You know, because some people might say, okay, you're lazy, so you have to be left to die of hunger or something. I don't think it's cruelty, you know. So even if they're lazy, which of course shouldn't be tolerated, it's not a good thing, but it doesn't mean, you know, that you should leave this person to suffer and die, you know. Just to give an example. Okay, so there was prevention. I'm looking at my notes. So related to the role of Christianity, you know, how we raise our people. My issue with Christianity is that it's too much focuses on praying, and you know, I don't think it should have monopoly on morality, and I think morality should be universal, and everybody should be taught in it. I think in the education should have more of that, more classes in morality, ethics, and even practical exercises, maybe even in school, how to treat other people. Why we focus too much on you should do this, but you don't say why you should be good and why you should treat people well. I think you should do this because it creates safety, you know, and otherwise you're in danger. If you decide to commit crime, you know, it just another person thinking like you might do something against you, then you're also going to suffer. So why risk, you know, endangering yourself, you know, by promoting such behavior and involving yourself in such behavior? And even these people don't realize that it's not in their interest to do this. They just hurt themselves in a way, and then hurt themselves again when they go to jail, you know, for something stupid that they've done and something bad, you know. If you've committed some kind of crime. Even that song, you know, Coolio, you know, why we're so blind to see that the ones we hurt are you and me, you know. It reminded me of that song. Social injustice leads to crime. I think one of the reasons, like I said, poverty, I wrote here. Okay, so we talk about this.
Citizen,
We just tolerate it by keeping the status quo. Many people are satisfied with keeping the status quo, so I'm gonna keep it at that for now. I don't think that's good, you know, because we have a lot of room for improvement, not just injustice, but in other fields. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Citizen Cody, you have the floor.
Right. So I joined the Agora thingy bob, started uploading crap, and so I don't like that. There's no like thumbs down. You know, if people have got to join the site, sign up, add all their crap, and then if anyone of all the people that don't like your idea, there's no idea to the dislike of it. You know, there's only how many people support it. I think there should definitely be a thumbs down. We don't like it. I don't. There's a couple of things about the idea that bug me. So there's 10.77 million people in prison, right? 10.77 million people, and yet you've got in God we trust for the government, right? We've got in the Queen we trust and the government, right? We're meant to trust in the government that is running the people, that assess whether the people did the crime or not. They've got a lawyer. The good people have got a lawyer. They get tested. Evidence gets put through. Person that seems not to be guilty goes, right? And they build prisons like they do houses and flats in England, right? They don't build out, they build up. So floors and floors of people in very short spaces, right? Now you want to take away some very vital land. We've only got so much land left, right? The problem is we're populating like you wouldn't believe, like rabbits, right? And the amount of land is still the same, right? So we're losing less land. We're chopping it down to make more space. We're chopping it down to make more money. We're chopping it down to burn it to get more fuel, right? There's a lot of things we do to chop it down or ruin it or tarmac over it. So there's less space, and you want to take people that can't be rehabilitated right? Which is in the States. I have no idea what it is in Asia. I have no idea what it is in America. I have no idea what it is in India. I know it's really bloody bad. In America, it's 1 in 30. The federal government released a statement in 2018 where the classes and the structures involved to offer these people rehabilitation, only 1 in 30 could be tracked to actually be rehabilitated. Right? In actual fact, it turned out that criminals were learning more criminal activities and better criminal ways of getting away with it in prison than they ever learned on the street, right? And you want to take these people whose only goal is to corrupt and fuck with society. They need society to function, and you think you're going to stick these in the middle of nowhere, valuable countryside land, and they're not just going to either kill each other inside this land, turn it into a hell pit, or, which is most commonly, just going to leave. You know, you can't put somebody on a desert island and expect them to sit there. Just not going to happen. Right? So you're going to release them into the wild like you want to, like animals, and then not expect them to find their way back to civilization and go at us again. Right? The reason we lock them up is because they're not fit for the rest of the planet. You know, that's why we have to house them behind bars with guards and guns. That's how bad these people are. Strong buildings, thick walls, guards and guns, right, to stop them leaving into the countryside. People try to escape from prison to escape to the countryside, and we don't want them in the countryside. And now you're going to give them land to live in the country. And that's the ones that cannot be rehabilitated. Now, let's face it, there are a percentage of people that are innocent that should never have gone to prison, right? And I understand we need to reform certain things where money isn't necessarily the way to become innocent. You know, people who've got money hire big ass lawyers, people get away with murder. Like they blatantly did the murder. We know for a fact they did the freaking murder, but at the day on the court, right? Sorry if I'm getting loud or angry, it's not meant to be, right? But on the day in court, right, they're like, I weren't there, prove it. And they can't prove it, and the guy walks, right? So we know this happens, and those people we need to like figure out more stuff, like better lawyers for the cheaper people and cheaper lawyers for the bigger people. I don't know, that makes absolutely no sense, but something, you know, equal it out, make a standard, and everyone gets the same standard of frigging lawyer. Release them in the countryside, bad idea. Not my countryside anyway. You want to release them, take them all to your country and release them. We did it. Do you remember? Like England did it. We took all our criminals, we sent them to Australia, right? And they inhabited Australia, and now England feels shit that we're living in England with all the rain and they're living in Australia with all the sun. So it didn't really work out for us. Let's not do that again, right? Okay, I'll maybe come back to this when I pick more holes in it, but yeah.
Thank you, Citizen Cody, especially for keeping it brief. Okay, so it's my turn. So a few things that I wanted to address. So first of all, I really like the point that Citizen Denny made about, you know, not creating more criminals. You know, it's having a society where people are not becoming criminals. I think that actually is a really big, possibly the biggest ingredient of this, and actually have a society where we treat our strangers as if they were our friends. You know, if you have a society like that, people are much less likely to commit crimes. Not to go on a tangent, but I think an essential component of that is actually distributing, at least for the corporation of the United States of America, for it to distribute a lot of the dividends that we have to the people in the form of a universal basic income. You know, when people can afford not to commit crimes, well then, when people are essentially paid to stay out of jail and contribute to society in other ways, guess what? People would rather have money and freedom than no money and no freedom. It's just kind of a no-brainer. So I think the universal basic income, which by the way is the #1 idea in the world in Igorot, so I think there's a reason that it's, you know, why it's up there. But so I think that's a very big component of having a society that treats each other like we're friends, maybe long and distant family, which we are. funny story. But so to that point, you know, and Citizen Shahad raised this point. What is justice between friends, between people who are not friends? Excuse me. What is justice between people who are not friends? What if the other person is not treating you as a friend? And I think this is where the grammar and the language can be of this passage is a little bit confusing. Justice is the friendship of strangers. So actually, what is meant by friendship is not the relationship, but rather the approach or the attitude of the individuals. So, friendship, like, for example, let's say the sentence, this person does not deserve my friendship. We're not talking about, well, I suppose it could mean the relationship. They don't deserve the relationship. Uh, but really, it's more like my attitude towards them, or um, if somebody says that, at least I think that's the other way of looking at the word friendship. It's the disposition, not the connection, not the relationship. So justice is people acting towards strangers as if those strangers were their friends. And now the interesting point again, Citizen Shahad raised is different people have different standards of how they treat their friends, and I think she brought up something about a morality. Well, notice that the word morality is not used here anywhere, and I have not really used that word except um, to exclude it. I have an amoral approach to ethics, and I think that's a much better way of doing ethics. So no, I don't think we need a single morality. I think different societies have different equilibriums, and different groups of friends have different equilibriums, what they consider to be being a good friend. A certain group of friends might consider one thing being a good friend. Like my friends and I, we joke around, we make fun of each other. Some sometimes really almost it would be hurtful if it was not towards the friend, but like we know we can tease each other, whereas you might not do that with a friend. So uh, you might not do that with a total stranger, so obviously it is different. um, but no, we don't need an overarching morality. Actually, um, I think somebody who's acting in a friendly manner or as a friend towards someone, towards a stranger, one of the first things a good friend does is finds out what you need. What is it that you actually need uh, to be better, to be made whole, or what are you suffering from? Like that's the communication. It's fundamental to friendship, communication. So no, it's okay to say that. It's actually kind of like the golden rule, as they say, treat others the way with the same regard. I like my favorite phrasing of it is treat others with the same regard that you would like them for you to be treated. So the point is that no, you don't assume that they are identical to you and have the identical needs. No, the way you would want to be treated is somebody to ask you, what is it that you need? What is it? What is your problem? How can you be helped? And then you actually help them in that way. So communication, that's the fundamental thing. So friends communicate. Friends find out what the other person needs, and so that's what we're talking about here. I thought it was obvious, but a lot of people don't think it is. But just to clarify, um, yeah, yeah, you need communication. Um, but keep in mind that we're at a philosophical level. This idea is intended to address justice at a philosophical level, not at a political level. So we are not really at the level of trying to write specific laws. We are kind of, well, developing and sharing our philosophy based on which we are going to develop laws. So we don't have to, I mean, we can be more specific. If somebody wants to be more specific, they can. Uh, but we don't have to be. I think we just need the overall idea that's going to guide us in the creation of specific laws. But to that point, I just want to say, so I have shared my idea so far with everybody here. I have subjected it to criticism, and of course, I'm happy to hear this criticism, but I would be much happier to hear your ideas. Like, if you don't like this phrasing of justice, you tell me what justice is, put it out there and codify it. No pun intended. Seeing Citizen Cody just raised his hand up, but actually write it down, share it in. Well, even if you don't share it in Agora, I mean, well, at least follow the rules. Make it whatever your good idea is. write it down so that I can take it and I could share it with other people, you know? So make it easy for me to teach others whatever your good idea is. So if you think you have a better idea of justice, then please write it down and then see how many people will support that. Because as you can see, 4 people were able to agree on this idea. Not all of those people are here today. Maybe I'm the only one out of the 4 supporters of this idea in Igora. But 4 of us were able to actually come to terms and say, this is a good idea. This is a good idea that deserves the scarce resources that we have within our profile to support, to support a particular idea pertaining to justice and the criminal justice system. So we were able to actually get that far, but so far no one else is doing that. So I would like to see something useful, something actually concrete, something I can, something better, something positive, not just critique. So please, if you don't like this idea of justice, then at least summarize your idea of justice for us when it's your turn to speak. I've spoken long enough, so I'm going to yield the floor. Thank you. I yield the floor. Citizen Danny, you have the floor.
Thank you. So one of the reasons the current criminal justice system is not very effective, it has obviously some positive effects, but not enough, because it's hard to prove really crime, and it's necessary to prove it beyond reasonable doubt, because otherwise it's like, as I said, you might put the wrong person in jail, which is obviously is going to be a very bad thing if it happens. Already mentioned about, I think, how greed could lead to crime, one of the reasons for crime. And that's why I had an idea for maximum income. And then I found out that actually the Senator Jesse Ventura, the Congressman Jesse Ventura, had this idea, and it's in Igora also. I didn't even post it. But I had the same idea, and when I found out he had the idea, I supported it. So check that out, and because I think that's gonna lead to less crime caused by greed. People who, well, you know what I mean. So what else do we have here? I agree with what Cesare said about. I think the issue with criminal justice is related to issue also of education, like Cesare mentioned, in the idea that we have to make higher education available to more people, and that would lead to less crime. And what somebody said earlier, I forgot who it was. I also had the idea about having requirement for when you are sued, the person who is being sued to have the lawyer with the same salary, that the same as good lawyer as the other side, have equally good lawyers, and it's going to be very tricky. However, how can you ensure that? But that's one thing that would make the justice system more just. I don't know if it's possible. I'm open for suggestions and ideas. Also, I remembered about how I'm born in Bulgaria, and until 1989 we're a communist country from 1944. And I read somewhere that during communism there was less crime. And when I mentioned to Cesare, he said probably just wasn't reported. That's possible, but that doesn't mean that's the case. There might be communism might have led to less crime, because people had more, and wealth was more equally distributed between people. Currently we have very big disparity and difference between the income of basically 1% of the people have 99% of the not just income, but I mean 99% of the how do you say, the property, and the resources, any kinds of resources you can think of. So what else? I also could argue that it's not just the fault of the person who commits the crime, if it's the case of crime committed because of poverty, if they're poor, but also the rich people who don't share really their wealth more with others, as Biden puts it, to make them pay their fair share. Even Warren Buffett actually had the decency to say we you should tax us more. Of course, it's very rich. You can afford to say that. I'm not saying everybody should be taxed more, but at least the richest people, maybe should be taxed more. And also I had another idea for justice, but I'm gonna get back to it later. Thank you.
Thank you. Citizen Lois, you have the floor.
Thank you. All right. So far we've heard a lot about wealth, poverty, income, and its relation to crime. I really don't think that that's the full answer to reducing crime in a society. And I'll give an example to explain part of why I think that. In New York City, there are some demographics that have a less poverty than others. They have less poverty, but they commit more crime. So it's not as simple as like less money, more crime, more money, less crime. There's more to the story. And in addition, the rehabilitative model approach to criminal justice has already been tried in the United States for a few decades, from the 1950s to the 1970s, but it was discontinued because it wasn't working. There were many criminologists who said it wasn't working, people saying it wasn't working. So I don't think that's the answer either. I think one example that's brought up a lot to argue for the rehabilitation model is looking to Norway, the Norwegian prison system as an example. But the Norwegian culture and the culture in the United States, again, I'm talking about the United States because I live here. I don't know as much, how in other countries. I know a little bit about some, but anyway. There's a different culture in the United States compared to Norway. The United States has much less of a culture of respect or a sense of community citizenship, things like that. There's more diversity and more conflict, and on and on. I'm remembering what Citizen Shahad said. Looks like she's not here anymore. But it is important to have a shared moral standard, or you could say a shared ethical standard, because as far as I'm concerned, they are synonymous. The terms are synonymous. That is important. So I agree with Citizen Denny that we should think a lot about preventing crime. And from what I can see so far, it looks like it comes down, number one, to culture. Again, Citizen Denny brought up, let me see, like the parenting family unit, the problem that comes with materialism. Changing a culture is really a difficult task. It can't be forced. And it's not like a law where you just decree a law and then everyone has to follow it or there are consequences. No, culture is more like it happens like in a disorganized way most of the time, or like an inorganic way. So I guess, since I'm all about pragmatism and discussing workable ideas, leaders, people in power can set examples of culture I think that would really help the kind of culture that we'd like to see. All right, that's all that I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Citizen Lois. Citizen Cody, you have the floor.
One second. Right. Okay. There was quite funny you came up with it. If you've got any ideas how to solve this problem, and it was in a philosophical discussion the other day, and about 40 people hated my idea. So if nobody likes it, I fully understand that. Let's say that we used to like chop people's hands off, right? We used to have corporal punishment. We used to have torture. We've done a lot of things in the world, and then we all said, okay, that doesn't work. We're going to try prison. We're going to try taking away the freedom of a human being, right? And we're going to build these prisons. And for the last 300 years, we've locked people in prison, and that don't work. Rehabilitation don't frigging work, right? So we've tried it, didn't work. So my idea is what you'd call like you got to think outside the box to appreciate my brain, right? The problem is the threat, right? People have learned that going to prison for possibly the rest of your life is not actually that bad, because people get sentenced to life all the time, and they know they're gonna, if they shoot this person, they can lose their life, right? And people get like 25 years and then do 15. They come out with a tear on their eye, tattooed on their face because they did 15 years. And that doesn't stop them from going and buying a gun and committing another crime, right? 15 years in prison does not solve that problem. So I have a cure. You need a message to the world. So for my idea to take hold, you'd need all the civilized countries, like all of Europe, except Greece and Turkey, which I don't consider civilized countries. Most of America, minus some of the Central Americans, Canada. You need a lot of the planet. And this is how you do it. And you do it inside of like 1 or 2 days, so the message goes out to the whole world. Basically, whether they're innocent or guilty, you kill everybody in every single prison right now. You eliminate every single person in prison. You gas them, right? We know we've got the technology to do that because us as human beings did that once before in history, and locking people in large buildings and gassing them. It worked. They absolutely killed thousands in days. It worked. So we can do it again. We destroy everybody in every prison. Now, do you know how much money a single prisoner costs to house in any prison in the country? They've got electric, heating, food, water. It costs money to house these people that have been taken away from society, right? Think how much it costs to build a prison. Think how much a prison space takes up when you're talking about all the yard, the size of a prison. And yet, like I said once before, there's no more land. We can't make any more land. Earth is so big, so much water, right? And the land is getting very, very little compared to how many people there are on it. And yet we're still building bigger and bigger prisons, right? To stop the people that we can't let go into the wild or let go into society, right? So this would solve that, which would free up a lot of space, right, when it comes to housing people. We can now house the homeless. We can use the prisons to house the world's homeless people and the starving and the needy and all of these people you don't want to come into America or England, refugees, right? But killing everyone would send a message. Like, if you commit a crime, you realise what we're doing to criminals now. So murder, rape, anything to do with a child. I don't care if it's only remotely guilty. If they're even remotely guilty, death, murder, death, rape, death, right? So now we don't have to house the rapists, the crazy people, the mass murderers, the child offenders. We don't have to house these people anymore, which will give enough space for that small percentage of people that we know have committed stupid crimes, like getting caught with weed, right? In a place where weed's not legal, which is stupid in itself, right? How can you be caught for carrying around nature? Stupid, right? But either way, in England, we can't smoke weed. It's illegal, right? And yet I go to prison for 3 months for an eighth. Do you know how stupid that sounds to me? Right? Really stupid. Because I've been there. I've been to prison for a month for like an eighth of weed. So I know exactly what prison's like and how useless it is. Right? I came straight back out. And before I'd even got home, I came out of prison. And before I even went home, I went to my dealer's house and bought more weed. right? So rehabilitation clearly doesn't work. Releasing them into the wild is not going to fucking happen on my watch, mate. I'm telling you right now, right? So this seems a great way of sending a message, giving the space to the people that actually could use some help, right? And we ain't gonna have no murderers, rapists, or child molesters anymore. So in my way, I think it works. That's all I've got to say. You can kick me out of the room now if you want.
Thank you, Citizen Cody. Citizen Tom, you have the floor next.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure what Cody was talking about. Like, he's saying that we should, like, I don't know what he's talking about. This civilized Greece not being civilized or whatever. Not sure what that was all about, but Turkey. This idea of Norway being the cat's meow society. Norway is the cat's meow for Norwegians, right? The US is not. I mean, like Cesare Agora. Agora sounds like you came from Greece, right? Or some background, possibly from Greece. Denny possibly came from Bulgaria. Lois Jerevich probably came from Poland. I think so, right? Lois, her family came from Poland, right? So, like, pretty much everyone here, everybody came from Rodrigo Cardosa probably came from it could be South America, Central America, or Europe, Spain. So it's pretty limited. I mean, that's what the US is. Everyone's last name is a tell of what, like, all you got to do is look up the yellow pages of that country and you can see everything. And so Norway doesn't have that, right? Norway, the general populace are all Norwegians in a sense. And that's that. So, like, this, you can't use the same, like, horses and people are completely different. We have you can't, the temperament, nature of a person and Norwegians is not the same as those in Chinese people, Filipino people, or whatever, right? Like, or like African people. So it's a mix. It's a gong show what we have in the U.S. And that's just, like, I don't. It's the facts. I mean, politically correct or not, it is what it is. You can, just. I think people need to cut the bullshit, cut the crap. Right? It's obvious. So, like, as far as crime and stuff goes, this is not just like my concern of crime and poverty related crime is one thing, but the violent crimes and the weirdo crimes, those are the ones. I mean, someone breaks the law and, like, I mean, yeah, there's some security issues, or they smoke weed, or they do a bit of drugs here and there, like, whatever. But when you're talking, they're doing, like, serious crimes, those, I don't think a lot of those are necessarily a function of poverty. They're more a function of just criminality and being, like, like, mentally ill, really. So it's not just money. UBI concept, the basic income, I think that's good, but just like in pretty well everywhere on Earth right now, there's a major disparity of wealth, right? Like, a lot of people are living like shit, and or below shit, and or like slaves, really, including the US, and a lot are not, and a small group aren't. I mean, my point, I don't know. I think that that's it. I mean, sure, you want to I don't know if I have a point actually. I mean, there's no sense in. I don't know. Does anyone have a point? Like, that's what the world we live in is. What it is, right? I mean, yeah.
Looks like you are finished, Citizen Tom. Um, I just want to point out, looking at the clock, we allow 1 hour for the open discussion. So we have 13 minutes left of the open discussion, after which time we're going to go into closing remarks, which is a time when we actually call on everyone to make sure that people who were not bold enough to speak, to raise their hand, that we kind of encourage them to take the stage for a moment and to say what's on their mind. So we're going to be going into closing remarks in 12 minutes. So I just wanted you to all know that. It's my turn to speak. So regarding people making points, I am here to make a point. I'm here to advocate a specific idea. Like I said, this idea already has 4 supporters in Agora. My goal is to get more. I didn't hear anything here today that has dissuaded me from supporting this idea. I'm glad that point was brought, the clarification, the difference of friendship being an attitude as opposed to a relationship. So that was a good point that was made. I don't know if that should be included in the explanation of that idea. I don't think it's in the text of the idea. I think that can be inferred. So I don't think it's necessary to do any beyond that. I do really appreciate, I think it was Citizen Lois who brought up the point about the Norwegian criminal justice system. And actually, I must admit, I am very heavily inspired by that system. That is actually where most of my knowledge comes from about the best way of doing that. Their idea is that if you want people to be rehabilitated and to re-enter society again, then the correctional institution has to be as close as possible to the natural world, to the real world, to the free world in which people live, as possible. Because if you're preparing for something, let's say you're learning how to drive on the road. You don't want to be learning how to cook in your driver's education courses. You want to be actually learning the thing that you're going to be doing out there once you have your license. So that course should reflect the reality. And our prisons really don't, especially the prisons that are built on the mentality that you have to punish people. Like, that's not preparing people to. It's supposed to scare people from coming back into that system. But it doesn't really do that. Well, for various reasons, I'm not going to get into that. It doesn't really do that. So, but yeah, the point is to help people be ready to go back out there again, or keep them in forever. Or like I said, I think we should just have a beautiful place where these criminals can do each other in on their own terms. They can create a wonderful space, a little island paradise for themselves. And don't worry, it won't take that much land, because actually, if you look at the proportional land, first of all, I think every person is entitled to their proportion of land. So if you were to take the surface area of the planet, especially if you would have to account for the variations. Some places are snow covered, some places are sandy deserts, hot deserts. But if you were to give criminals their proportion of land that they're entitled to as a human animal, you could actually work with that. But it would be rough. You're not going to build a civilization on that unless you are well organized, unless you actually rehabilitate yourself. So, and a whole bunch of other people. You create a new community that's actually rehabilitated. Okay, I'm getting some people want me to wrap up. So, 2 points I actually really wanted to make. The Citizen Cody raised the point that essentially the only penalty should be death. You know what? I don't think that's a terrible idea. I think that idea has potential. Uh, I don't think that really reflects the whole justice of justice is the friendship of strangers. But I will say, I think that idea does actually have potential. It would create a very different society, but I think it would be a society that actually has the potential to survive at the very least. Um, I think it would definitely make people much more interested in what kind of laws there are, so that they don't get the only penalty. Yeah, it would create much more engaged citizens. I gotta admit that. I got to. It's gonna happen. It's gonna work. But I don't. I do suggest that you introduce that idea, as you might want to develop it a little bit further. But because maybe some laws should be eliminated. But I do suggest that you actually introduce that idea into Agora and you see how it fares. Who knows? Maybe it's going to outcompete this idea. Maybe this is how we're going to be doing things from now on, if you build enough support for it. Maybe you should present about it at the next citizen assembly. So all those options. Okay, one last point I wanted to make. Citizen Lois, uh, so how you were talking about changing culture. I think the way that you change culture is specifically by changing the laws that are in place based on the values that you want to emphasize. So a society, and of course, so culture changes laws and laws change culture. It's a, it's a feedback mechanism, but you have to have the willpower. So you have to think like, okay, we value this thing. We value it together. We want this value to come to fruition, to be emphasized. How do we do this through laws? Now, you could be wrong about that. People are wrong about this all the time. They want to emphasize this value, they create laws for that value, but it actually has the opposite effect. So people are very often wrong about that. They try to emphasize a particular value, but they make the wrong laws for it. But so you know you so but based on these values that you want to emphasize, then you create the laws that are supposed to help to realize that value. And of course that changes the society, and then people discover, well, hey, maybe this is not the value, or maybe this value has led us to a whole other value that we weren't paying attention. So it is an evolving system, but laws are an essential part of changing culture. Laws are changed because of the culture, but then the culture becomes reinforced by the laws. And just real quick, like the whole idea of, I think the culture of the United States is very much based on greed and individualism. And if we want a society that has a stronger sense of community, there is the community of freedom, but I think you can have freedom without greed, freedom without this rabid individualism, like that we still work together. So you can have, yeah, you can have better laws to emphasize better values, I think, in the United States. So yeah, I'll stop here for now. 6 minutes to go. I'm gonna yield the floor. We have three other speakers, so we'll finish the speaking order, and then we'll move on to closing remarks. I think that will be the best way. So Citizen Denny, you have the floor.
Yeah, capital punishment doesn't work according to some documentary that I watched. I'm sure they have the statistics to back it up. I admit I was shocked that it didn't work. I don't know who in their right mind would risk dying to commit crime, especially out of greed. Obviously, there are other reasons for people committing crime. For example, in Bulgaria, the prisoners built, like say, furniture. So this one way they could be useful and for society. I don't know how it's in the States. We didn't talk about immigration justice, whether people, for example, in the States, it's a big issue. I think, however, the United States have more resources than other countries, so I think it makes sense for the United States to share some of the resources with other people. Even the Pope, one of the popes, suggested that the natural resources should be divided equally between nations. So that's not happening. I don't know why it's not. I think it seems like a good idea. Of course, good luck enforcing it. But yeah, I think this is the way. Of course, it could lead to Third World War, and some of the stuff mentioned in the Bible, about the fighting evil. That's an interesting question. How do you fight evil without going to people, without people dying? And I do have a strategy for it. And one of the ways it's going to take actually probably a few generations to happen. Like I said, through education and more emphasis on how you raise children. Cesare mentioned that teamwork is important. I don't know why we're so individualistic. When we work in a team, we're going to be more productive and everything's going to be better than if we're individualistic. And this way we just oppose each other. If we're individualistic, like as I said, only only care about yourself and not care about other people. That's why I like when Cesare puts, I think Cesare put it to somebody, I think put it in the comments that, I forgot my thought. Damn, I hate when this happens. Yeah, hopefully I remember later on. That's it, thank you.
Thank you, Citizen Denny. Citizen Cody, you have the floor.
I'm going to be really quick with this. People use examples of other places as something right to do, and Finland, Switzerland, and Norway always come up, and it sends a spiky cactus up me bum. Right, I want to clear something up. Finland is, say, first, Norway is, say, third in the world, and Switzerland is like fourth or fifth. Right, this is how it works. They're the richest. Some of the richest, unrealised richest countries on the planet, and it works like this: largest exporter of Wellington boots, car tyres, Finland, Norway, Switzerland, right? The key is rubber. They have woodland. Largest exporters of wood furniture, largest Finland, second Norway, fifth Switzerland, right? Size of the country, the money they own Nokia. Finland owns Nokia. Norway is one of the largest collections of natural gas and hydropower. They use wind power out in the ocean, right? Really bloody windy, lots of windmills. They earn a lot of money and they send it around the world, right? I'm not really sure what Switzerland is. I think it's like stolen money. But either way, the point is these are extremely rich countries that have a very large income naturally. Then you look at the size of the country. I'm going to use England and Finland as the main example, but Switzerland and Norway fit exactly into the same thing. When you see the size of America and you see the amount of people, and then you look at England. England, 90 million people. Finland, 3 times the size. The country is 3 times the size of England. America's like 5 times the size of England, right? Let's just do Finland and England. England, 90 million people. Finland, 5. Switzerland, 10. Norway, 5. So literally like 20 million people in all those 3 massive countries, right, with all that income and then a very small populace. One of the other massive exports that Norway, Finland and Sweden all have is they export extremely intelligent people on a regular basis. In Finland alone, at 16, not only are they setting that they're the equivalent of A levels, right, but they speak 3 frigging languages. So they literally train these people because they've got the money to put time and education into the schools, right? It's bloody freezing in most of these countries for most of the year. So there's no hanging out on street corners. On street corners during the winter, you die, right? So they've got to go somewhere. So they give them more activities like clubs, baseball, sports, cards, intellectual studies. These are all clubs that are free across Norway, Switzerland and Finland, literally like free, government funded without question. Right, so there's places for these people to go, higher education, right, and loads more money. There's no homeless people in Finland. That's literally a weird fact. 0 population homeless in Finland. Why? Because homeless people die. Mostly like Sweden and Norway as well. Get homeless on the street in Norway, come winter, you're dead. So they cannot have it. So that the money that they've got also helps these people get off the street, get rehabilitation, drug rehabilitation, educated and back into a job, which only pays tax and supports the community. And that's why those 3 countries always come out as the best, because they're bloody big, they've got natural massive incomes, and they've only got 5 million bloody people. So stop using Norway and Finland as examples of great countries. If you had that amount of people and that much money, you'd be great.
Thank you, Citizen Cody. And we are right at the time to go into closing remarks. So we have about 20 minutes. We can go a little bit longer, shorter. So we can be a little bit, we try to wrap this up within about 20 minutes. But again, try to express your thoughts in, 2-3 minutes or so. We have enough time for that. If you got to go a little bit longer, that's fine. Do we have, well, maybe... Citizen Denny, would you like to lead us in the closing remarks by calling on people and making sure that the meeting stays in order, that people don't interrupt? Do you want to do that?
As long as it's okay if I give the word to myself first.
That is fine. I will go last as the presenter and as the host. I will get the last word.
Okay.
Just call me last and yeah.
Okay. So me first. the reason why capital punishment might not be so good is that let's say your father gets framed and then they get gassed or killed. You know, obviously it's a big problem with that. But when you think about the positives, I admit that this idea does require further thinking about it. And I had another idea that since it costs so much for, like I said, the prisons and the guards and the judges and the lawyers and the police, and this costs, like I checked, just the police costs, I think, 500 billion per year in the States. So if you take all this money and distribute it between criminals, maybe that will discourage them from risking their lives and to be and facing lifetime in prison and, you know, prosecution. And of course, Lois mentioned that it's going to motivate people to commit more crime, but I think that people are going to be tempted, you know, criminals going to be tempted to really take this offer, you know, and avoid risking, you know, like I said, you know, life sentence or whatever. Okay, so that's it for me. So next is how about Rodrigo Cardoso? I think he joined after. I don't think he spoke at all, but that's a good time for him to speak if he wants to say something. Go ahead, Rodrigo. Rodrigo, can you hear us? Can you speak? Sorry, we'll get back to you because I don't want to waste more time. We're gonna move to the next person, then I'm gonna come back to you. Okay, so next is Bob. Bob, if you can say your closing remarks. So I'm gonna go back to Bob later, I guess. So next is Lois. Sorry, let's go with Cody. Sorry.
Okay. These are my closing remarks. Sometimes when I feel like I've got a good point and it seems to be like a big load of information, I talk fast, and the faster I talk, the angrier I sound. So the last time I spoke, I might have come across angry or condescending in some way, and I might have used a swear word or two. I want to deeply apologise for any bad language that I used. Thank you so much for having me. This has been really good. Everyone's had really good points, and I've taken, like, I think it's actually been a really good event, and I've liked everyone's comments. So that's my closing remarks. Just thank you for letting me be here, and thank you for all being highly intelligent people. And just to say something, right? I think I put forward the idea because it was like playing devil's advocate in the other philosophy group that I made the question up in. But if it was like a thing, I wouldn't vote for that. Like, I would never vote for that. Like, I love humans too much and I believe in humans too much, so I would never actually vote for killing everybody in prison. It's a good idea, but I wouldn't vote for it.
Thank you, Cody. I just put in the chat for Bob and Rodrigo if they can't hear us or something, if they want to speak, any of them. Yeah, go ahead, Rodrigo or Bob, if you can hear us. Go ahead and say your closing remarks. Otherwise, we're gonna go to Lois. Okay, Lois, go ahead.
Okay. From some information that I've seen, it looks like there is a method of penalty for crime that has historically been more effective. And that is public shaming. And I'm trying to think of like what a more attractive phrase might be, but I believe in calling things that we should, use words that are accurate, that reflect what they are. This works, what this does is it taps into the very human, hyper-social part of our nature. So I think that could be a part of reducing crime that has been more effective than rehabilitation. Also, I'm not opposed to capital punishment if it's understood, if society understands, you know, that what certain crimes have what certain penalties. So, and that, and if it's shown to have an effect of reducing crime. And I think it does not have an effect of reducing crime when it's currently. I don't know what documentary Citizen Denny was referring to, but I can believe that it's not effective. Executions used to be public, and I think if people see that kind of stuff, you know, it might make more people think twice about not committing certain crimes. The other thing is, we would also need to make sure that we're very accurate in who is convicted. All right. Oh yeah, and then the other thing is I'd like to bring up the idea of releasing people into a well-guarded natural location, in Cesari's words. I think, Cesare, you had in mind an island, because Citizen Cody, I think, said that, you know, people might be able to escape and get back into society. That would be a lot more difficult if it was an island. So maybe, Cesare, you can modify the idea and specify an island. Okay, there's a lot going on in the chat, but I can't read it right now. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lois. Cesare.
Sorry, guys, I was.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Hi,
Go
guys.
ahead.
Good evening. I was hearing you, but I was out. So I would like to add a thought. It's I mean it must be very fast because we don't have enough time. But from Nietzsche perspective, from the philosopher Nietzsche, so that the idea of justice is a little bit polemic because you can't define like a universal idea of justice. It's always will be like from a perspective. So for example, in wars, both sides firmly believe that they are seeking for justice. So if you go for any kind of war, both sides will believe that, no, I'm doing justice. And if you ask the opposite side, they would think the same. So so I think that it's extremely hard, or maybe even impossible, to define what justice is, because for me, justice might be something that is opposite, the opposite for you. I think that we cannot define, it's impossible to define some idea of justice that will work for everyone in the planet. That's my point.
Yeah, I don't agree with it, but thank you. Okay, so next is Cesare, and then we're gonna go back to try Bob again.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming and participating. I've presented this idea many times before. But it's always interesting. There's always really good insight. Maybe it should be clear that the well-guarded natural location would be an island. I thought it's kind of obvious, but because, you know, sometimes you can make islands, you can make man-made islands, you could create. So there are other ways, but yeah, maybe it would be more easier for people to wrap their heads around it if it just explicitly said an island. And yeah, it would be well guarded. Like, if you try to escape, you get shot, and that's it. You drown. You know, that's it. You know, it would be considered an invasion at that point. But anyways, the other thing that I wanted to say is, this meeting, I love these meetings, but frankly, my favorite meetings are actually one-on-one with people to discuss these ideas in depth, because there's a lot of the back and forth that's kind of missing from these kinds of engagements. So I do make myself available for citizen office hours, and I do encourage everyone else to actually schedule their own as responsible citizens. I think we all should have citizen office hours. I do it for 2 hours a week, but for some people it might only be an hour a month. But it really is a great opportunity to make yourself available to connect with other people, so they know that they have someone they can speak with to, you know, to propose an idea, or somebody to learn from. So I do have my office hours scheduled in Igora. You can find them on my profile. I just want to highlight that here in a moment. Um, Here on my home screen, so you can find out there's this feature here to list your office hours. So my office hours are here. You can schedule yours as well, and of course, you know, a way for people to RSVP or something. Um, but yeah, my office hours are actually at the time of this meeting. So, well, an hour prior and the first hour of when this meeting is happening. So it's roughly at the time of this meeting, on days on the off days. So we only do this meeting once a month, but the rest of the week. So you can swing by the same Zoom room if you want to discuss these ideas. And I do appreciate actually Cody introducing his own idea. And yeah, you know, the idea of capital punishment being the only punishment. I wouldn't really entertain that on my own, but it's something that could be explored. It could be entertaining to explore. What would society look like? Anyways, but I appreciate actually him having something specific, a specific proposal, not just criticism. But I appreciate your other comments as well. So I think I'm gonna. Oh yeah, and the other thing is we are gonna hang out. I'm gonna keep this room open for just a little bit. Normally we actually do book club at this time. We come together and share different books. Different people read different texts, so you might want to join us. But we can talk about that later. So we're gonna have a little hangout session after the meeting has been officially concluded, after we have voted on who gets the T-shirt. So we're going to be doing that. So once we're officially done, you can still hang around and connect with other people. That's the big thing, is networking with one another, bringing people together. So
sorry, just for a second. Can you just create a different Zoom room for the book club so it's separate from these meetings? So we can keep the room for longer if people want to.
We can always create breakout rooms. So
okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right, so I think I'm done speaking. So, and the only thing that's left, so this actually, is Citizen Bob still available? Is he going to speak?
Yeah, Bob, if you at any point you want to speak, just go ahead and feel free to interrupt.
Well, the one last thing that I want to do is for us to vote on this T-shirt. So we do have these beautiful Control Your Government T-shirts available to the winner of today's vote of the most insightful contribution. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the chat, and I would ask people who have been here, at least people who have heard. We have not actually heard Citizen Bob at all. So at least, you know, the four people with their pictures or cameras, and then Citizen Rodrigo, we also invite you to vote on who you thought had the most insightful contributions today. You can vote for more than one person, so just please take about a minute to write in the chat the name or names of people who you thought had the most insightful contributions. We're
Votes, 3 votes.
missing a vote from Citizen Denny, I think. Is it? Yeah, Citizen Danny, you have not voted.
No, I put in the beginning that Indian woman who left and me. I don't know if she's Indian, but forgot her name.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
I think Citizen Bob hasn't voted.
Well, Citizen Bob, I don't know if he's real. We have not even heard anything from him. So
Maybe he stepped out and he's not a
We're-
good worker.
we're not including Citizen Bob in this one. Please show up early on time and make your voice heard next time. So do we have a winner at this point? I think all the votes are in.
Lois, 3 votes.
It's 2. I'm tied with Lois, but I don't think we should count Rodrigo because he didn't hear most of the discussion. So I think you should include the whole time and all the people who.
Can you
Yes,
vote?
I was late. Sorry, guys.
Are you allowed to vote for yourself? Is that included that you can vote for yourself?
Yes, you can vote for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put yourself and we're gonna be tied too. I can even give the award to you because I already won once and I have the t-shirts. I donate money to Cesar. He gave me t-shirt, so that's fine.
You can recast your vote, Citizen Cody, if you want to vote for yourself as well.
Okay, so let's win, I guess.
So I think that's a tiebreaker. So we have Citizen Lois as the winner. Am I correct? Am I correct? Just not to crash.
Actually, if we don't count Rodrigo, 3 people are tied. But let's go with Lois, I guess, because otherwise it's gonna be hard to decide.
Yeah, originally I wanted to do the vote only with the people who are here from the introductions, only who was here from the introductions, but it's kind of hard to keep track of that, and then some people show up late or they miss the introduction because they've been here before many times, and so the biggest thing that we want is people who were here for a good portion of the discussion, and people who are real people. Citizen Rodrigo, thank you for participating as much as you could have. We have Citizen Lois as the winner, so congratulations. But actually, really, a great insight from everybody. So thank you. Citizen Lois, we're going to need your size. No, I think you've already won a t-shirt. So.
Thank you, but there is something I'd like to add. If anyone here likes what you just experienced and you'd like to see more of it, we invite you to add a donation, a contribution, because running this is not free. And I have a link here if you're interested. But anyway, any and all donations are no, wait, that's not it. Hang on a second. Very appreciated. And we also have financial statements made public. So you can see whether you'd like to contribute. All right, there you go. Yeah, that's the link. So anyway, thank you for the award. And thanks for coming.
Thank you. Okay, so this meeting is officially adjourned.